Patriotism means to stand by the country. It does not mean to stand by the president. There is but one answer to terrorism, and it is best delivered with a Winchester rifle. This country will not be a good place for any of us to live in unless we make it a good place for all of us to live in. It is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles, or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who at best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly. Patriotism means to stand by the country. It does not mean to stand by the president or any other public official, save exactly to the degree in which he himself stands by the country. It is patriotic to support him insofar as he efficiently serves the country. It is unpatriotic not to oppose him to the exact extent that by inefficiency or otherwise he fails in his duty to stand by the country. In either event, it is unpatriotic not to tell the truth, whether about the president or anyone else. Knowing what's right doesn't mean much unless you do what's right. There can be no divided allegiance here. Any man who says he is an American, but something else also, isn't an American at all. We have room for but one flag, the American flag. We have room for but one language here, and that is the English language. And we have room for but one sole loyalty, and that is a loyalty to the American people. A nation that still needs to distinguish between stealing an election and stealing a new pair of shoes is not completely civilized yet. Do what you can, with what you have, where you are. Behind the ostensible government sits enthroned an invisible government owing no allegiance and acknowledging no responsibility to the people. To destroy this invisible government, to befoul the unholy alliance between corrupt business and corrupt politics is the first task of the statesmanship of today. If you could kick the person in the pants responsible for most of your trouble, you wouldn't sit for a month. No man who is not willing to bear arms and to fight for his rights can give a good reason why he should be entitled to the privilege of living in a free community. To announce that there must be no criticism of the president, or that we are to stand by the president, right or wrong, is not only unpatriotic and servile, but is morally treasonable to the American public. Nothing but the truth should be spoken about him or anyone else. But it is even more important to tell the truth, pleasant or unpleasant, about him than about anyone else. Do something now. If not you, who? If not here, where? If not now, when? In any moment of decision, the best thing you can do is the right thing, the next best thing is the wrong thing, and the worst thing you can do is nothing. When they call the roll in the Senate, the senators do not know whether to answer present or not guilty. There should be at least 10 times the number of rifles in the country as there are now. To educate a man in mind and not in morals is to educate a menace to society. the bosses of the Democratic Party and the bosses of the Republican Party alike have a closer grip than ever before on the party machines in the states and in the nation. This crooked control of both the old parties by the beneficiaries of political and business privilege renders it hopeless to expect any far-reaching and fundamental service from either. The only man who makes no mistakes is the man who never does anything. Do not be afraid to make mistakes providing you do not make the same one twice. A man who is good enough to shed his blood for the country is good enough to be given a square deal afterwards. Believe you can and you're halfway there. A thorough knowledge of the Bible is worth more than a college education. All contributions by corporations to any political committee or for any political purpose should be forbidden by law. The things that will destroy America are prosperity at any price, peace at any price, safety first instead of duty first, the love of soft living, and the get-rich-quick theory of life. Nobody cares how much you know, until they know how much you care. He who makes no mistakes makes no progress. There's no room in this country for hyphenated Americanism. The one absolutely certain way of bringing this nation to ruin, of preventing all possibility of its continuing to be a nation at all, would be to permit it to become a tangle of squabbling nationalities. Nothing worth having was ever achieved without effort. No man is worth his salt who is not ready at all times to risk his well-being, to risk his body, to risk his life, in a great cause. Every immigrant who comes here should be required within 5 years to learn English or leave the country. The worst lesson that can be taught to a man is to rely upon others and to whine over his sufferings. The reason fat men are good-natured is they can neither fight nor run. No man who is corrupt, no man who condones corruption in others, can possibly do his duty by the community. Here is your country. Cherish these natural wonders, cherish the natural resources, cherish the history and romance as a sacred heritage for your children and your children's children. Do not let selfish men or greedy interests skin your country of its beauty, its riches, or its romance. Most of us tiptoe through life in order to make it safely to death. Far better is it to dare mighty things, to win glorious triumphs, even though checkered by failure, than to rank with those poor spirits who neither enjoy nor suffer much, because they live in a gray twilight that knows not victory nor defeat. Far and away the best prize that life has to offer is the chance to work hard at work worth doing. A vote is like a rifle. Its usefulness depends upon the character of the user. Courage, hard work, self-mastery, and intelligent effort are all essential to successful life. A soft, easy life is not worth living if it impairs the fiber of brain and heart and muscle. We must dare to be great, and we must realize that greatness is the fruit of toil and sacrifice and high courage. For us is the life of action, of strenuous performance of duty. Let us live in the harness, striving mightily. Let us rather run the risk of wearing out than rusting out. We can have no 50-50 allegiance in this country. Either a man is an American and nothing else, or he is not an American at all. The best executive is one who has sense enough to pick good people to do what he wants done, and self-restraint enough to keep from meddling with them while they do it. You cannot create prosperity by law. Sustained thrift, industry, application, intelligence are the only things that ever do, or ever will, create prosperity. But you can very easily destroy prosperity by law. Make preparations in advance. You never have trouble if you are prepared for it. With a great moral issue involved, neutrality does not serve righteousness, for to be neutral between right and wrong is to serve wrong. It is necessary for the welfare of the nation that men's lives be based on the principles of the Bible. No man, educated or uneducated, can afford to be ignorant of the Bible. Any man who tries to excite class hatred, sectional hate, hate of creeds, any kind of hatred in our community, though he may affect to do it in the interest of the class he is addressing, is in the long run with absolute certainty that class's own worst enemy. Of one man in especial, beyond anyone else, the citizens of a republic should beware, and that is of the man who appeals to them to support him on the ground that he is hostile to other citizens of the republic, that he will secure for those who elect him, in one shape or another, profit at the expense of other citizens of the republic. It makes no difference whether he appeals to class hatred or class interest, to religious or anti-religious prejudice. The man who makes such an appeal should always be presumed to make it for the sake of furthering his own interest.